Hi friends, it's Scarlet here, and if you're new here, I'd like to welcome you to my channel. I post weekly videos about tarot, paganism, and magic, and for today's video, it's going to be kind of a story time video, so do feel free to get comfy, grab yourself a cup of tea, and relax while I share a story with you. And the story I wanted to talk about is one of my own experiences with the paranormal, because I've gotten some questions from some of my subscribers about if I've had any experience with ghosts or the paranormal at all and what those experiences were like. And I have actually had a couple experiences, and they mostly occurred when I was younger. And the first occurrence that I wanted to share was when I was, I guess you could say, around 11 or so. And to set the stage a little bit, I grew up in a really old house in a small village in upstate New York. So the town itself was pretty historic. Several of the homes in the village had been used for the Underground Railroad, and in our own house too, we had some unusual features. The garage had a like a trap door in the attic where you could put hay down, and the base of the garage used to be for horses, not cars. And we had a well in the backyard that was covered up. We never did uncover that well, so I don't know what might have been beneath it. And oddly enough, there were pottery shards that my family discovered periodically in the backyard of various different styles and types. Whenever we were gardening, we would discover all these different pottery shards. So there were some kind of unusual things about the house to begin with. And the room that I lived in, my bedroom, it had part of it was connected to the attic. At one point it was kind of two separate rooms, a bedroom and an attic. And in order to create this space to make it larger, my parents decided to tear down that wall, so the attic became part of my bedroom. So the occurrence happened in the attic section of my bedroom, where there was a small window. So the small window, it just looked out into the backyard, and one day I did see something. I was around 11 and I had a friend over for a slumber party, and we woke up at around the same time, and we both saw what looked to be an older man staring out the window in the attic section of my bedroom. And at the time, I freaked out, she freaked out, and we threw the covers kind of over our heads. And I remember we were finishing each other's sentences. So I was like, "Did you see that?" And she's like, "Yeah, that old man." And I'm like, "Yeah, by the window." So part of me, what leads me to believe that this did really happen and it wasn't kind of false memory, is the fact that me and my friend both saw it and that we both finished each other's sentences. When we eventually threw the covers, back off and looked again, he was no longer there. But I did feel kind of his presence throughout the house from that point on. And it was never a malevolent spirit in any way. I never got any bad vibes from the spirit. And a little bit later, when I was a little bit older, I did actually get a Ouija board and tried to communicate with the spirit, and found out his name was George. I believe he did die in the house. And beyond that, I didn't really have any negative experiences. I was always very comfortable with it in some way. And I'm not quite sure where I fully stand on ghosts and if they are sentient or if they are residual energy of some sort, or there's a lot of theories out there, and I'm still, working through my own ideas and my own opinions on that matter. But ever since I did see that first spirit, I was always fascinated with the paranormal and that eventually led to me discovering things like eventually Wicca and paganism and magic and things like that. It kind of all stemmed from some of these early experiences I had with experiencing this presence. And there were a couple other moments in the house where things would turn on and off unexpectedly. My TV would turn on and off, or things would fall down like books from the other room, but I still never got the sense that this was a bad spirit. It just kind of felt like he was still at peace in a way. And I do wonder when he might have lived in the house. If I wonder about those pottery shards in the backyard. Maybe he was a potter, and I have a lot of unanswered questions about it. So these experiences mostly occurred when I was a very young teen and throughout my teenage years. And there were a couple other ones I might share in a future video. Let me know if you like this and you'd like to hear more stories. But unfortunately, I haven't, I guess you could say, seen a ghost since I was a teen. And I think that that is something that a lot of people have experienced. Perhaps there is something about that energy that you project as a teen, all those crazy hormones, this transitional time in your life that draws spirits or entities to your energy. I think there really is something there that a lot of people have these experiences when they're younger, or perhaps it's because as we get older, we're more quickly to say that they're not real or that your mind is playing tricks on you. So I do hope to eventually have more experiences with seeing entities in the future, and I'm very open to that. But I really haven't had any significant experience since I was a teen. Though I would say that I did seek out a ghost hunting kind of group when I first moved to Chicago. And I'm not going to name names or anything, but I eventually left because I found that it was kind of disingenuous. And maybe this is just my own thoughts, but they had scheduled like a ghost hunt at a local cemetery, and I went, and they charged us $20, which is fine, I guess. And I was under the assumption that they had permission, but really we ended up kind of sneaking into the cemetery, so legality was a bit questionable for that experience. And they took us to several different areas in the cemetery that were said to house a spirit. And honestly, I didn't really feel much in that cemetery. I usually am pretty good at picking up on vibes, at sensing areas and the energy in those areas. So I was a bit surprised when they took us to one statue. It was a statue of an angel, and they put 2 flashlights on either side. And they said, well, for flashlights, turn on if you are with us, turn off if you are not with us. So it's kind of a way to communicate with the spirit. And I was completely surprised it worked. We were able to communicate with the spirit. The lights did flash when we asked if anyone was there. When we asked questions, they would answer yes or no. And I was really surprised by the whole experience. I didn't really know what to think. But then afterwards, when I got home, I was a bit suspicious. I'm not quite sure what made me suspicious, but then I went online and found out that the flashlight thing is kind of a trick. It's a natural aspect of physics where if you unscrew it slightly, which I'm guessing they must have done, the flashlight will turn on and off periodically as it heats and cools. You know, it expands, it turns on, and then it cools and it shrinks and kind of goes through this process back and forth. So that could have been, you know, the cause of the lights turning on and off. as we spoke to the spirit. So after that kind of experience, I didn't really go back to that group. So I am still seeking out kind of a group of people that, you know, are interested in exploring the paranormal. And I really love to visit supposedly haunted sites. I do that a lot in the city. I go to like haunted bars and look up the history and things like that. I find it all very fascinating, and I'm a huge history buff, so that helps. But I've never experienced any, you know, really negative spirits in my life. Even, you know, through my own pagan practice, I've had experiences with the divine, I would say. But in terms of like ghosts or poltergeists, other than the single ghost of the old man that I did communicate with and had experiences with through the Ouija board, I really haven't had any negative moments. So I guess I'm not as afraid as some people are who have had very scary, very negative experiences with entities. So that was just a little story I wanted to share, and I wonder if that old man is still there in that room today, if his energy still lingers in that house. Eventually my family moved out, so, you know, I didn't really have a chance to revisit and kind of see that space as an adult, but I do really believe that it was real and that it did happen. And I look forward to kind of continuing my exploration of these things in the future. So I'd love to learn more about your own paranormal experiences. I do have one other experience that I'm not sure if I'm going to share with you guys or not. It's more of a kind of like a mass hysteria event that occurred among me and my friends when where people started having visions and started seeing things. And it was very powerful, very scary experience, but looking back on it, I don't necessarily think it was paranormal. It was more psychological. So let me know if you're interested in hearing more about that or not. And this is such a great, you know, conversation. I love watching other people's videos about their own paranormal experiences. So do please make a video response or share your own thoughts in the comments. And I am planning on doing another video early next week, so I will see you then. And in the meantime, I hope you all have a great couple of days. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.